Well, you know, I'm kind of excited because I went to visit Mrs. Kim of the Jungang Ilbo, and
What's the Jungang Ilbo, by the way?
the Jungang Ilbo is a very big, as you know, but good question for the purpose of our audience here, is a very big, it's a major, one of the major newspapers in Korea. They have a Canadian, you know, version, or a Vancouver version. I think it's a Canadian version because most of the Koreans in, well, there's a lot of Koreans in Toronto, but at any rate, she runs the place here. And when I was doing my Korean about 7 years ago, at that time she did an article in her newspaper, and she was very helpful. And so now that I've started up again, I went to see her to see if there's any way that we can cooperate with them, whether it be here in Vancouver or possibly in Korea in some way. And the first thing she had was she had her editor interview me. So I did an interview about 20 minutes, 100% in Korean. So I was quite excited. No question.
Did you know you were going to be doing this before you arrived?
No. I knew that Mrs. Kim doesn't speak very good English, so I knew that I would probably be speaking to her in Korean.
Right.
But then she said, wait a minute, we'll get, I can't remember actually his name, but editor, he's going to interview you. 20 minutes. I spoke the best that I've spoken. Hey?
How did you feel during the interview?
I felt great. I felt, you know, you have that feeling as if your feet aren't touching the ground. Wow, look at me. Because up until now, I've stumbled, you know, whether I talk to Ju-hyun or whether I talk to these other people, I get all the endings wrong. And the reality is that you never do as badly as you think. And when I'm talking to someone, say a lesson on Skype, I kind of feel it's important that I get it right. When I'm talking to this person where I'm being interviewed, all that matters is that I get my meaning across. So I can mangle the endings. It doesn't matter. I can tell by the way he's nodding his head that he understood what I had to say.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So once you kind of remove this fear of getting this wrong, have I got it right? Is this the right word? You have to communicate because he's interviewing me. So I understood what he was saying most of the time, and he seemed to understand what I was saying. Now, we'll wait. The proof will be in the article that comes out of this.
But I guess partly too, you're kind of, it's not artificial, it's real. Like this guy's actually, this is a meaningful, real conversation as opposed to either even just a lesson, like with a tutor or talking to the guy at the dry cleaners, which is always a little bit forced.
Well, and it's easier for me to talk about things that I'm familiar with. Right. Explaining how I got the stain on my sweater at the dry cleaner is very difficult.
Yeah.
But this, it just, sometimes you're lucky too that the nature of the questions,
right.
it seems to be steered towards areas where you can use the words that you have. So that was good. And then I spoke with Mrs. Kim for quite a while, and all of it was in Korean, and that was certainly, it's like, gee, all my work has been worthwhile. I also think that obviously the listening and the reading, all of that is cumulative, and you're not aware of how much you're improving. You're not aware of every time you're reading and listening, the brain is becoming just a little bit more familiar with the words and the writing system and the structure of the language. It's cumulative, so you just have to stay with it. You have to stay with it. The brain gradually absorbs it, even if we don't think it does. So that was kind of neat.
So you had probably, what, an hour of...
I was there for an hour.
Yeah, a solid hour of Korean speaking practice.
Pretty
Did you
well.
feel the brain fatigue after?
No, you walk away, not fatigued, you walk away, quite stimulated. I can't wait to get home. Because the other thing was, I did this video yesterday about discovering Kim Young-ha's podcast. Someone was kind enough to mention on my YouTube channel that he's in fact a very famous Korean writer, and that he did a TED Talk. And so I went to the website, and sure enough, here is his TED Talk with transcript, with translation. So I immediately alerted one of our outsourced people who helps us upload stuff to the website. I said, please get this into the Korean library. And he sent me an email. It's up. So as soon as I get home, I'm going to do that 20-minute discussion. And it's an interesting discussion about being more creative and blah, blah, blah. A lot of words that I know, so.
Hmm.
Today's a good day.
Yeah.
Some days are bad days, today's a good day.
That's now you walk out of there, you did well, now you're
Fired up.
fired up, you're not, there's no brain fatigue, you're kind of
Absolutely. Every time you have a little
Giddy.
victory,
Mm.
you know, that's why I think it's so important for people to give themselves credit for their little victories.
Mhm.
Because it just, I think it sends a electrochemical charge into your brain, you know, and the brain is keen to learn again.
Yeah.
Whereas if we're always, it's easy enough to be frustrated about the things we can't do, because there's lots of them.
Yeah.
So you have to, you know, take advantage of let's say, the little victories and give yourself a pat on the back. So today's a positive day.
there you have it,
There we have it.
yeah.
Not all
Tomorrow's
days
gonna
are
be a
like
downer,
this.
right?
Huh?
Tomorrow's gonna be a
Tomorrow
downer.
might be a downer.
Yeah. Never know.
You never know.
That's
And
good
Steve,
though.
Yeah.
During that conversation, did you notice some things, some issues that you should work on better in the future? I mean,
Not
your career
really.
management.
I'm more conscious of those kinds of things when I'm having my discussion with my tutor.
Mhm.
Because I'm more conscious of the fact that I'm mangling some ending. Because in Korean, the trouble with Korean is the word order's like Japanese, and my brain starts me down a Japanese path. But in the end, it's different from Japanese.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to break that. The brain thinks it's Japanese, but it's not. It's Korean.
Mhm.
So in this, I was so focused on actually communicating on the content that I did better.
Mm.
But I think though, subconsciously, I'm always focusing on those things where I know I have difficulty when I listen, when I read.
Yeah.
So it's a slow process.
I've
But no,
noticed-
I was less conscious of those kinds of problems than when I speak normally.
When I studied Japanese in university, I noticed the same thing, where my Korean was already better at that point than my Japanese, and I found it very difficult learning them simultaneously. I kept switching back and forth because some of the words are so similar, they sound the same. And so for me that was really difficult, not having an advanced level in Korean and then starting fresh in one, but having them kind of closer in level, that definitely there was a lot of confusion in my brain. trying to
Well, it's a
figure it
bit
all out.
like the problem with Russian and Czech.
Mhm.
Russian and Czech structurally are almost the same,
Mhm.
which is not the case with Korean and Japanese. The problem in Russian, with Russian and Czech, is the vocabulary. And you end up not knowing, is this a Russian word or a Czech word? Because for half of them it doesn't matter because they're more or less the same, but the other half are completely different.
Mm.
So if you use this Russian word when you're speaking Czech, people kind of look at you, you know, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But with Korean, it's the structurally it's the ending of the verb that's going to tell you the although, because, if, whatever.
Yeah.
But it works differently than Japanese. So more work to be done.
Mhm.
More work to be done.
Good.
Okay, that's our story for today.